Just wait for Councillor Trainer to get back to her seat. And there she is. All right. So ready to start, CAO?
Yes, I think everyone's here, Madam Mayor.
All right. I'd like to call the regular afternoon council meeting to order of May the 25th, 2020. Corporate Officer, do we have any late items to introduce?
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. On to approval of the agenda. Could I have someone bring forward that, please? Councillor Holmes and Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? Terrific. And Aaron Carlson, I can't see you, so if you're opposed, just shout out.
You can't see me? Can anyone see me?
No, it's just only because I only have room for 9.
Okay. Got it.
There,
thank you.
when I swipe. Thank you. Corporate Officer. Public comment opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this electronic meeting is being held without public in attendance as permitted under Ministerial Order M139. The meeting is being live streamed right now on YouTube. It will be recorded and posted to the District of Summerland website.
Thank you. So moving right on to item 5, business items. 5.1, 5-year capital plan amendments. And Dave, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've put together a slideshow presentation. So what I'm going to do is try to share my screen with you guys, and I'm going to see if I can actually do this or not. So give me one quick second.
Looks good.
Okay, so now I just have to figure out how to turn the thing on. Oh, right here. There. We're good. You can all see that?
Yep.
Perfect. So today, Council, the topic of conversation is some proposed amendments to the 2020 to 24 capital plan. Specifically, what we're looking at are primarily just looking at the year 2020. There are a couple projects moving into 2021, 22 that staff would like some input from council on, but really focusing in on 2020, primarily due to the whole COVID issue and some of the challenges that have been faced now because of this. So the agenda for today is Anthony will have a quick brief rundown on the strategic priorities and the 2 main ones that specifically relate to capital, and then we'll move into the proposed capital plan amendments themselves. Going into then the 3 specific items that staff would like to have some conversation with council about and get some council direction. And then at the end, just provide some next steps as to where this is all going to take us. So with that, I will hand it over to Anthony to start.
Okay, thanks, Dave. So just to run through quickly, obviously council set their strategic priorities in the at the beginning of their term, looking at the 6 strategic priorities there. The key ones, obviously, for our discussion today around infrastructure investment. It's obviously important to council and the community, and has been a big focus of setting the original budgets as we got into budget 2020, and I know before that as well. As we now turn our attention to look at revisiting some of our priorities based on the changes that COVID-19 has set in front of us. We look to the priority around community resilience, looking at obviously utilizing the resources we have and adapting things as we need to adapt them, like the rest of the world has. And the District of Summerland, we're obviously no different. So we've taken the opportunity over the last couple of months to look at our operating budget, which we brought through council, And now today, as Dave said, is the chance to really look at our capital budgets for this year, and the opportunity for council to give us some guidance into some of our longer term projects as well as we look at moving forward. So I know there's some obviously some individual projects that are on the budget and included in there for discussion. We look forward to having some discussion with council on those, and we'll be able to speak to those in a bit more detail. Some of those likely needing to come back with a bit more robust discussion around some of the other issues attached to those budget items as well. So we'll speak to them as we get through those items, and I'll hand you over to Dave to run us through a summary of the council report.
Perfect. Thank you, Anthony. Well, were there any questions? No? Okay. So the amended capital plan in front of council. So the proposed 2020 capital plan, it affects 38 projects. 36 projects are being proposed to be deferred, totaling of $1.89 million. That's in all 4 funds. And additionally, 2 projects totaling $3.52 million have had their scope changed as the district unfortunately was unsuccessful in receiving grant funding. So those 2 projects, $2.45 million related to the voltage conversion project, which we did not receive funding for, and just over $1 million relating to the Arts and Culture Center. So $3.5 million related just to those 2 projects alone, and then the $1.89 million in the other 4 funds. Overall, when we're looking at projects, the Water Fund is looking at deferring 2 projects. The Sewer Fund, 4 projects. The Electric Fund, 6 projects with, like we mentioned, the 1 scope change. And the General Fund, of course, which is the largest fund, 24 projects and the 1 scope change with the Arts and Cultural Center. Looking at the factors and what's brought us to this point in time today, there's 3 really main factors that staff have looked at in bringing this forward. The first one is the projected revenue decrease. As council is aware, revised operational projections that the district, we're going to see approximately $3.2 million decrease in revenues, which equates to about an 8.7% decrease when we look at and we compare it to our original financial plan was adopted in late February. This decrease in revenue, of course, has a direct impact on the district's cash flows. And those cash flows, we use those, of course, to fund our operational expenditures, but also our capital expenditures as well. So that's a fairly large decrease of cash coming into the district, or proposed cash. The second item is the decision that council made to extend the property tax due date by 3 months. Now, this will provide residents additional time to pay their taxes. And additionally, council also did provide residents access to the 10% utility discount to the end of December 2020. We have seen a large increase in utility accounts that are now in arrears over the past few months. So as of May 21st, where 221 customers have accounts in arrears, and 114 of those are greater than 2 months. When we compare that to the same time frame in 2019, there were 122 customers in arrear, but only 27 that were 2 months in arrears. So we've seen over a 300% increase in those accounts that are 2 months in arrears, equating to about $92,000 in additional AR that's out there that historically we would have received. So again, just another item that affects the district's cash flows. The third item is staffing reductions. Based on the revised financial projections, The district has temporarily reduced its staffing complement by about 20%. And there were a few positions in there that were permanently laid off as well. Such a large reduction, it has greatly limited existing staff resources. So their focus now is on existing service levels and trying to maintain those levels, which of course in turn limits any ability of those staff members to work on any new capital projects that have been proposed. So those three items are really the three main focuses and the three reasons why staff have revisited the capital plans themselves and are bringing forward these proposed amendments. When we look at the projects themselves, Council has the package and I believe you've all gone through it and had a look. So this is just a summary. These next few slides basically just summarize all of the different projects that are being proposed to either be deferred into 2021 or into future years. Unless Council wants me to, I'm not going to read them off individually because there are a lot of them. If there maybe are some specific questions to individual ones, we can go through those. But as mentioned, the water utility, there's 2 projects, sewer, there's 4, and in the electrical utility, there's 7. Moving over to the general fund, there are changes throughout. Through admin and IT, we have 1 item. The pool and the arena, there's 2. There's a proposal to defer 2 vehicle purchases into 2021, as well as the fire department. Works is looking at moving out 2 landfill projects, as well as a Christmas lights upgrade. And emergency response, you'll notice that that's in red. When staff brought forward the original budget back in February, the guardrail pathway was actually not included as one of the projects. However, that is a project that needs to be included in the capital plan. Was discussed with council, but was just for some reason never made its way on there. So that's an item that has been put back on or put into this plan. Looking at parks and facilities.
Excuse me, Dave.
Oh, pardon me.
May I just ask a question about the guardrail path?
Yeah.
You said that it has been put back into this plan and that's why it shows in red because it should have been in there. Yeah. But I'm wondering if, because it's part of the slide on amendments, proposed amendments, is it in there because that is under consideration on taking it out again as a capital project?
No, it's Madam Mayor, it is in there. We're putting it back in. So when council approved the original financial plan back in February, this project, for some reason or another, never was included in that adopted plan.
Okay.
So what this is doing is actually putting it into the capital plan.
All right. Thank you.
All the other projects that are in black, we are proposing to actually defer and move into different years.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then when we look at parks and facilities, again, these are probably the 2 largest areas of projects that we're potentially looking at deferring. And again, the list is there, and if there are any questions, we can answer them. We do have one project that.
Sorry, Dave, Councillor Barkle has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, somewhere along the line here, are we going to also have a list of what remains?
Those are all included in the agenda packages, Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I'm sort of flipping through it and it's hard to keep up. Okay, I'll look as we go here. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, to have summarized that into slides would have been fairly difficult, or there would have been a lot more slides to show what would have actually is being proposed to be kept in, as opposed to what's being proposed to be deferred. But as noted, if there are any questions or specific questions to projects, staff is here to answer them. This slide here, I'll have Anthony speak to this slide.
Okay, so I thought I'd just provide a bit of an update for council on this project. I know it's been a while since council and the community have seen where this project has been moving, and we're obviously disappointed that the federal funding did not come through for the larger scope of work at the Arts and Culture Centre. And we're in the process of putting a report to council, which should be in place over the next couple of weeks to provide council with a more detailed update of this project. But on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll get a sense of the funding breakdown. The $250,000 obviously allocated from the district. Capital fund is there for discussion today. However, we have had grant funding extended on the grant components of the gaming grant and the Rick Hansen grant. So just a quick status update of that project. As I said, we'll have a more fulsome report with the next steps on that project for council direction over the next few weeks. Thanks, Dave.
Okay. So before jumping ahead, Madam Mayor, the next few slides deal with those three specific projects that staff is looking for specific direction from council on. I'm wondering, would you prefer us to go through the entire presentation and then open everything up to council, or would you like to discuss any of the projects that have currently been listed and then potentially move on?
Well, my preference would be to go through all of the slides and then come back so that we can have a more fulsome discussion on each of the items that, particularly those three that are in the staff request for decision. But that's just my opinion. Is the rest of council in agreement? Just maybe, say aye or nay.
Aye.
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 Okay, that's four of us, so that's enough. Okay, so if you could carry on, Dave, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Excellent. So with this, the solar and battery storage project, staff are seeking council direction on this project, specifically due to the potential cash flow constraints that could arise. Now, the adopted financial plan has budgeted $4.49 million to be spent in 2020 and an additional $2.49 million in 2021. So as council is aware, there will be a solar report coming to council in July of this year to address specific questions that council does have. Additionally, council has expressed that additional public input needs to be sought on this project. Further, an RFP process could potentially take a few months, depending on where everything falls out at the end of those July meetings. So the timing of these three items alone would suggest that the district will not be spending $4.49 million in 2020, which the approved budget currently shows. So based on that, staff is proposing the following amended budget timeline, which based on where the project is today, is more reflective of how this project could potentially be rolled out over the next 2.5 years. And that is on your screen there, a proposal of amending the budget itself to $200,000 in 2020, 4.29 in 2021, and 2.49 in 2022. It appears where things are currently at from a budgetary perspective, this seems to be more realistic where we currently are, seeing as we're almost into June already. The second item, Madam Mayor, that staff is seeking council direction on is this Giants Head Road project, specifically in light of the financial impacts to individual Summerland residents that have been brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Some residents have been impacted significantly by the pandemic. As we noted earlier, we've seen a 300% increase in the amount of accounts that are 2 months outstanding and more. And it could take a significant amount of time before those individuals have recovered financially. This project is substantially paid for by debt, which, based on the tables that were provided in the council package or in the report, could increase a property's annual payments between about $59 to $81 over the next 20 to 30 years. Now, aside from the potential annual cost to taxpayers, from my perspective, there is a pro as well. Interest rates are at all-time lows. A 10-year borrowing currently is sitting at 1.8%. So the cost of borrowing is extremely low. And if the project is delayed by 2 to 5 years, there is the possibility that borrowing costs, not to mention construction costs, could potentially go up, which of course would be more of a cash flow concern for the district. But as of right now, this is a conversation that staff is asking council for some direction on. The third and final project that we're looking for specific direction on, outside of all of the other projects that are being proposed, are the pickleball, dog parks, and tennis courts. During initial budget deliberations back in February, these items had the most vocal input from residents. The attached amendment proposes to defer all projects until 2021 that were currently slated to be budgeted for in 2020. However, as they did garner substantial public input, council may wish to defer, may not wish to defer them, or may wish to defer one or two, or we're really looking for your input on this one as well. So that's kind of a summary. What would next steps look like? Staff is hoping for council to provide direction on which of the numerous projects that are being proposed to be deferred. If a decision is made, what would happen then is a financial plan amendment bylaw would be prepared based on the direction received today. And that there would also include the operational amendments that council already approved about a month or two ago. So all of that, all of those deferrals and amendments would be put together in one consolidated financial plan bylaw amendment and would be brought forward to council in a future date here, hopefully in July, depending on the conversation today, for council approval and adoption. And that concludes my report, Madam Mayor, and really looking forward to council discussion and direction.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we could start, if I could have, Dave, if I could have you stop the screen sharing so I can see everyone.
Oh, yes. How do I do that? Someone may need to tell me how to do it. Oh, hold on.
Yep, you got it.
Is that done?
Yep, looks good. Okay, so I'm going to ask council if there's any, other than the 3 that are in our staff report, are there any of the proposed amendments, deferrals, that anyone would like to discuss further? We'll start there. Councillor Holmes.
Could we ask some questions first? I have a number of questions.
Oh, absolutely. This is the time.
Yeah, thanks. So do we know, have we heard of anything regarding the federal plans for having the post-pandemic infrastructure funding for municipalities? Do we know anything about that? Have we heard anything about that? What might be coming down the pipe?
Yes, so Madam Mayor, what we've heard so far is that the federal government is planning on putting out an intake. The intake program guide has yet to be released. They have mentioned the amount of money, and it eludes me right now. It's a large amount. But as of right now, there's no program guide. There's no intake date yet that has been released. So as of this point in time, we are still, as municipalities, still waiting for that rollout.
So just to follow up then, so we don't know what kind of projects will be eligible? Like, would we know if Giants Head Road would be eligible? And just following up on that, and if it is, would it need to be shovel ready, and is it considered shovel ready now?
Unfortunately, Councillor Holmes, due to the lack of information that has come out from the feds so far, I cannot answer that question.
Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, Councillor Holmes kind of is thinking along the same lines as me here. I've been watching closely to see what sort of infrastructure plans the feds have. We know that every time there's a recession, they throw a lot of money at infrastructure and such. And I think it would be very prudent to be as ready as we can be with drawings and such, and take this project, he's talking about Giants Road, of course, as far as that, you know, the shovel ready, that's a term you don't want to use with the Liberals. It was a conservative term, but that concept is understandable. And I myself could never support doing this project until, with all of taxpayers' money, and until we've at least, you know, had 2 or 3 stabs at getting federal and provincial grants on it, just like we did with Garnet Valley. We had the plans, we revised them a number of times, and then eventually we got, you know, a substantial amount of money, 2/3 of it. And I would say that at this point, the odds are good. And if we want to play the odds, I'd say let's be ready for it. And if we don't succeed after a couple of tries here, then maybe we'll have no choice.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Before I go back to Councillor Holmes, is there anyone else that has a question or comment? Councillor Traynor.
Anthony, are there any projects that are being deferred that have any kind of safety concern? I did notice that there was, in the capital plan, there was money allocated to tear down a couple houses on Dunn Street, and that's been moved to next year. And I realize that's a small thing, but that was something that I thought should be done sooner than later, because to me, those pose a safety hazard to the public, especially when you're driving by. They're starting to look completely grown over and they look like they're empty. So that's one example, but I'm just wondering if there's anything else before we make all these decisions that could pose any kind of safety concerns for the district.
So, Madam Mayor, I think maybe Chris, I know a lot of those projects fall under your area, and perhaps Chris can speak to the process he went through when looking at those projects. Obviously, the components Dave mentioned earlier around the staffing and those sort of things, but safety and any sort of emergency related project was certainly part of the discussion. So I'll hand you over to Chris just to run through that.
Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, there's a number of projects on the list that we looked at, judging everything from, like you said, public liability, regulatory or compliance issues, as well as ones where we were just maybe further along the process of that project. So with the 2 that you mentioned, the rental houses, those are not public property per se. So the risk of someone wandering into there or getting themselves in a predicament is a lot less than some of the other projects. So that's where we've seen those ones are sort of there's no additional risk if they're just left as is for 12 months before we get to them versus tackling them in 2020. But any of the projects that you see being deferred are not, are a lot lower risk to us on all of those different levels that I mentioned. And so we did look at them from that lens when we went through the review of these capital lists.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Traynor. Back to you, Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just back to Giants Head Road then. I guess my question is, if we do the design and pre-construction work that we budgeted for this year, will that potentially increase our chance of getting a federal grant if an infrastructure program comes forward? And if it does, then it might make sense to continue with that work this year as planned. If it makes no difference, then it makes sense to defer it. That's kind of my thinking. Keeping in mind last time we applied for it, we obviously we didn't have that work, and but then we didn't get the grant either, and I don't know if we would have got it if we had done this pre-construction work or not. So maybe nobody can answer that question, but I'm sure somebody has a better idea than I do in that respect.
Yeah, I can jump in, Councillor Holmes. So we have completed the design on that to approximately a 90% design. The additional work this year was to bring that design to council to make any revisions that come out of that process, and then finalize the tender documents in order to be 100% ready to move forward with tendering that project if and when we either got funding or got the go-ahead from council to proceed. There is some additional work on the water system upstream of Giants Head Road that is also included, and that's under the water budget under a separate item. It's the additional 1.5 million that's added to the 6 million for the Giants Head Road itself. So the detailed design on that, those water main improvements and additional pieces would need to be done. So those are two components that we could proceed with in 2020, and that would put us in a better position to be able to jump on a grant program more quickly. That being said, it's a couple months worth of design work on the water system, and maybe a month's worth of work on finalizing the tender package to get it ready to go out.
Okay. Could I ask council again if there is anything other than those three items that I think that we probably want to have a much larger conversation on, that you wanted to ask questions or comments on items other than those three? Okay, so let's just carry on then with the three that are in the staff report that they want to have, staff wants to have a decision made on. And seeing as how we've already started on Giants Head Road, are there any more questions on Giants Head Road? Councillor Barklow.
So what I heard from Director of Public Works is that we would be in a better position, but I don't have any way of assessing just their capabilities. He talked about 3 months worth of work. Is staff able to do that? Would we maybe want to rehire somebody to do that? You know, I don't really know if I'm in a position here to assess the impact to the department would be. Can Chris elaborate maybe?
Yeah, so the design work would be work that we would hire a consultant, an engineering consultant, to work with us on to finalize that work. Within our department, the staff that would typically be involved in a project of that nature would be our engineering technicians and our manager of works. and potentially some of the work staff and water staff to review the designs. So those staff are still all currently on staff. None of those staff are temporarily laid off, so there wouldn't be a need to recall in that area in particularly. So it is something that we intended on moving forward with in 2020, but highlighted it as a potential concern based on the funding source, and that if council was or wasn't comfortable with moving forward with the potential borrowing that was required if we should be moving forward with that final piece of design.
Could I just ask a follow-up question on that regarding the 3 months of work? Can you give us an idea of what the amount of that RFP for the engineering consultant would be? How much?
I believe we had 50,000 in the budget on the Giants Head Road piece, and then 80,000 in the water fund. So a total of 130 currently budgeted for engineering services.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Barkwell?
Yeah, so it seems like there's two different questions here, interrelated, but one is, do we continue with the work? And the second one, would we then, with the design work, would we continue with the idea of tendering it and borrowing the money to do the project? Two different issues. So I would suggest that we continue with the design work and be ready for the RFP, or I mean, sorry, I'm not the RFP, but any infrastructure grant applications, and defer the you know, the going to tender and borrowing the money aspect of things. I mean, that's not really a hard choice for me.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Any questions or comments on Councillor Barkwell's viewpoint? It certainly aligns with my viewpoint. So anything else from others? Councillor Traynor and then Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I would like to keep moving forward with this project in some aspect, because we've been talking about this for a really long time, and Giants Head Road is in terrible condition. I rode my bike on it yesterday and it's just really bad. And like I said, we've been at this for a long time, so I think we need to keep moving forward on it in some way or another. And I like what Councillor Barkwell suggested. And I mean, I would even go a step further and say that if we can't get funding for this, we'll see if that happens or not. But if we can't, I don't have a problem borrowing for this project. Like David said, rates are pretty low right now. And I think that having one big project on the go is good for our town, because we don't really, you know, I think people like to see progress being made still, even though we're in the times that we're in. Those are just my thoughts.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Barkwell is suggesting.
Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also can agree with Councillor Barkwell. I'd like to get the design work completed, as that term that has been used in the past, shovel ready. So if any grants are available that we can apply and we're ready to go. At this point in time of borrowing the money to proceed with the project, like was indicated, we would be looking at $50 to $80 something per home. And right at this point in time, or post-COVID, it's going to be another strain on our residents. So, I think the grant, or the, if money's available from the feds, we need to be ready for that. So I would agree with Councillor Barkwell.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to agree with you all. I like the point that Councillor Van Elfen just brought up in regards to the situations that we're in, especially after listening to our Director of Finance talk about the arrears in utilities already up 300%. But I do believe that we shouldn't stop the wheel from going forward as far as the pre-construction and the design works go. But I think at this point, I would rather see us see what we can get from the federal government if some grant money comes, but I really don't want to see us moving into some more debt at this point for Giants Head. I know it's something that we all talked about and that we were really pushing for 2021, but unfortunately, hopefully it does happen. But I think at this point, I'd like to see the pre-construction and the design work completed, and then we take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. Councillor Barkwell.
You know, one other thing to bear in mind, although we're not faced with the decision at this moment, is that if we did go ahead with a new aquatic center and health center and stuff, that's going to be a really big impact, and we have to consider both of these things at the same time, and whether we can do everything without additional funds from the senior government. So we'll have it's something to keep in mind, but when the time comes.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Councillor Carlson, did you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add. I agree with the conversation.
Thank you. Do you want to have a resolution at this point based on the conversation that we had to carry on with the 3 months of work that's required for engineering, so that we can get to a point where we would be ready to apply for whatever infrastructure grant may come from the federal government? Or do you want to go through the other things first and then have the resolutions come forward at that time? Dave?
Madam Mayor, based on the fact that the approved capital plan that council adopted back in February has this project budgeted for $130,000 in 2020, no recommendation then would be required because it's already in there, and it's, like I say, it's already been approved, and the only way we would need a council resolution is if you wanted us to remove something or change something. So as of right now, the way it stands is if council is proposing to have staff continue on doing this work, we would not require a resolution.
Okay, thank you for that, Dave. That brings me to another question though. Although the $130,000 is in the 2020 budget, and that's the only portion that's in the 2020 budget, at this point, we don't have to make any decision on the borrowing aspect, correct?
No, Madam Mayor. The intention here is to look at 2020 and what projects we're going to do this year. And alarmingly as it is, August is coming pretty quick here when staff are going to start looking at 2021 budgets. And that at that point in time, when we have a sit down and we look at those, and we'll basically be re-bringing the budget forward to council again in the next probably 5-6 months. So at that point in time, I would anticipate those conversations being had.
Okay, thank you. So then the proposed amendments that will impact the 2020 budget, that's all that we have to deal with at this point, even though it impacts the 5-year financial plan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good. So that's good. We're sailing right along. So that's the Giant's Head. So who wants to bring up one of the other two remaining pieces that staff needs some decision on? Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, just a question regarding the dog park. Now, we we didn't make a decision on the location of the park. That was going to be some further research was required. So even if we postponed, deferred for a year the construction of the park, we could still do that research and talk to the Lutheran Church and all the other things that we talked about where we could still figure out where to put it. Because realistically, it would have probably been deferred until next year anyways by the time that research was done. Is that a fair statement?
Is Lori on?
Hi.
There she is.
Good afternoon, Council. We did, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but we did remove the funding allocation for the research out of the operating budget. So we had consulting funds of about $10,000 that was in the operating budget to do all the research. At this point, we talked about maybe internal staff being able to do that work instead of consulting it out. Resourcing right now is really tight, so I'm not sure if we would be able to do that work this year.
That answer your question, Councillor Holmes? Maybe? Councillor Carlson.
Since we're talking about pickleball, tennis, and dog parks, I think it's important to recognize that three of the only things that people can go out and do right now are pickleball, tennis, and walking dogs, running dogs in parks. And so if COVID continues for a long time, we might want to try and prioritize getting more spaces like that for people. And I know that's a tall order, trying to get all of those things done, because we've seen the challenges in finding that space, but I think it's important that it remains somewhat of a priority, just in case we can't open our other facilities as we would like to.
Councillor Trainer. Thank you, Councillor Carlson.
Would Lori be able to remind us where we are at with pickleball too? I think we approved that. I just can't remember the details right now.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, the pickleball project, we had allocated $42,000 for the construction of the resurfacing of the pickleball courts. We were going to proceed with that early spring, but the projects have all been on hold. We did go to RFP, and we do have a quote for that work. But we'd still have to go back for the fencing piece of it. So we just kind of put everything on hold when COVID broke out. And if we were to proceed with that, we would either have to interrupt the season right now. It could be about a 4-week project to get both the fencing and the surfacing done. So that would delay use when that work was happening, or we could look at the fall to do it when it's not as busy, or defer to next year.
Any other, Councillor Trainer again.
I don't know how the rest of council feels, but like Councillor Carlson said, it might be nice to move forward on one of these projects since this is one activity that people can do. So perhaps if we maybe move that to this fall and got going on the pickleball, then at least we're moving forward on one of the 3 projects. Those are my feelings. I think that would be reasonable. And then, like Councillor Holmes said, the dog park would probably take until next year anyway. So I think it would be reasonable to go forward with pickleball in the fall, if there's staff resources and time for it.
Councillor Carlson?
So just to follow that, I don't know if maybe I should know the answer to this, but do we have any fields or facilities that won't be open for club team sports this summer that we might be able to use for a different purpose, whether it's a temporary dog park or something like that? Just to throw that out there.
Lori?
We're actually meeting tomorrow as a senior management team to talk about next rollouts of outdoor spaces. That's not something that's come up as an idea, but we can certainly discuss that as an option tomorrow.
Anthony,
Thank
did you?
you.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Carlson. Anthony, did you want to add anything based on our conversation last week? Or is it too
I think
mature?
we're just, we've had some requests from the province to look at some opportunities for temporary housing or temporary camps for some of the farm workers that may be coming to the community as well. So that's one of the items that we're thinking of as well over the next few weeks. So there's certainly a lot of pressure on the unused spaces that we have right now, and as Laurie said, I think we've got a good chance to try and potentially revisit the use of some of those spaces. But we're also getting some, not pressure, but each of these sport organizations are coming further and further along on their plans to get back at those organized sports. So there's going to be a mix of different pressures on those spaces, but certainly worthwhile looking at how we can make efficient use of the spaces over the next few months.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's logic into deferring any actual capital project in a building this year, though I think we should continue with the research. So for the dog park and the geotech studies for the tennis, so that we have all that information and we're ready to roll for 2021 to actually start constructing everything. I don't see any reason why those things need to be held up, but I would support deferring any construction of all three facilities to 2021.
Dave, would that require a revisit of the operating budget?
Madam Mayor, if the intention was to, as Councillor Holmes just put, to have all the research and everything done, then we would need a resolution of council to put back the $10,000 back into the operations, which we had previously removed.
Okay, and if I could ask a question about that, the $10,000, does that cover the geotech work that needs to be done for tennis, as well as the dog park research?
Madam Mayor, the $10,000 was specific to I believe it was the site selection and all of the rest of that work on the dog parks, the pickleball courts, and the tennis. The geotechnical work has been left in the capital plan, so there was $5,000 allocated for that. That still is in the budget for 2020. So the $10,000 was specific to the operational side of things.
Okay, thank you. Any comment on the putting the $10,000, or Councillor Barkle?
So we've already spent $15,000 on the first study on where to put the dog park and the pickleball courts, and this is another $10,000. So a total of $25,000 trying to figure out where this should go, or do I understand that correctly?
Dave?
Through the mayor, when council approved the budget last year, they had allocated up to $30,000 for all those works. And my understanding last year, we had spent the 15, and we had pushed, of the 30, it had been determined that we only needed about 10 to finish that work in 2020. And Lori can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the assumption, or that's the way things were rolled out. So the 10,000 was to complete the work that was started in 2019.
Yes, I see Lori nodding her head. Thank you, Lori. Does that answer your question, Councillor Barkle? You have another one, okay?
Well, with that, I mean, we got the report. I didn't, what was the balance of the work supposed to be if we had not, if we had been able to make a decision on where the dog park was, if we'd gone ahead with our original decision? What was the rest of the work going to be?
I think, oh, go ahead, Lori.
There would have been just a surplus of funds. So it was unused funds. If we were to proceed, it would just be the capital funds to build the park.
So instead of spending the money on building the park, we're spending the money on studying the question again. It just seems like a lot of money because council can't make up its mind. You know, is there any other way?
Councillor Trainer. Could I ask you to just mute yourself, please, Councillor Barkle? Thank you.
From what I recall, the reason that we're investigating more spaces for dog parks is because what came back out of the report and what we heard from the public at the budget meeting was that they weren't really happy with the results. And so we had a discussion about other possible locations, and we all kind of really want to get this right because it costs a lot of money and, you know, there's a lot of feelings around it. So I recall that we directed or requested that we get more information on other possible locations for the dog park. That's what I recall, and that would require a bit of extra funds, and that's where we're at with the dog park. And then with the pickleball courts, I thought that we already made a decision on that, and so that's why about 5 minutes ago I suggested that maybe we move forward with that particular project. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. That's just what I recall.
Right, and then I think what Lori just reminded us was that we had originally allocated $30,000 and it came back at $15,000. So there are surplus funds thinking that it may only be $25,000. I think that it's not really extra funds that are required. It's just using the funds that we had already allocated. Is that a correct interpretation, Lori?
Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say yes.
That is correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So does somebody want to make a motion on this particular item, including all three of the things? Tennis, pickleball, and dog park? Anyone? Thank you, Councillor Holmes.
I think the only motion I would need to make, or I'd want to make, would be to keep the $10,000 back in to complete the research for the dog park of the proposed changes, staff changes.
And then nothing about the pickleball?
Not for me.
Tennis is as it is. Councillor Patton, were you seconding, or did you have something you wanted to say? And then I'll go to Councillor.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I just had something to say. When Dave or Lori was talking about the allocations, there was some additional $5,000 of geotechnical in the capital, I believe. Was that set aside for the geotechnical component for the tennis courts at Lakeshore that we were discussing? Yes. Okay, thank you. So we've got funds allocated for tennis to move forward with the geotechnical there. If we allocate some funds for where we're talking in regards to relocation of the dog park, then I believe the only thing that we really have on the table is, as Councillor Trainer was saying, is do we want to move forward with Peach Orchard and the addition of the pickleball courts there? And yeah, interesting discussion for sure. Haven't made up my mind yet. Thanks.
Councillor Van Elfen.
So if I can get something clear, so we'll do the research for the dog park. The engineering will be completed for the tennis courts, and we'll defer all construction projects till 2021.
That's the motion that is on the table. Well, it's actually not on the table because it hasn't been seconded yet.
Well, if that's the motion on the table, Madam Mayor, I would gladly second that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I didn't really follow the rationale for deferring the pickleball, other than maybe just general. No, I don't really. Can staff maybe give that to me again? Because other than it's a relatively small amount of money, why would we want to defer the construction of the pickleball when we've at least agreed on that aspect of things, and it's certainly something the community is clamoring for.
Lori?
I'll just talk to the actual staffing impacts. To complete the pickleball courts, it's very low impact as far as district staffing resource. It's pretty much a complete the RFP process and have somebody come in and do the work. There's a little bit of work on our end, but it's pretty low. Dave would be able to speak more as far as a cash flow reason to defer it.
Over to you, Dave.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the other items that as senior staff we were talking about outside of the cash flow perspective was just again the timing component. Lori had spoken earlier that once COVID hit, the brakes got put on everything. As we were quite unsure as to where things were at. So moving forward with this project, for just strictly from a timing perspective. If an RFP is put out, in the next month or so, courts realistically would be being built probably in July, August time frame, which would give only about, 2 to 4 months worth of time for people to be on the courts. And then, of course, the winter conditions would hit and they'd be under snow. So part of the thought process from staff was that by delaying this one more year, you're really saving that kind of 1 year amortization on this court. If you can build it next spring, you've got it for the entire year, and you've got one less year of weathering on it. But that was just, again, just a thought process of staff, and one of the reasons as to why we ultimately decided to bring it forward for deferral. But again, it is, of course, council's discretion.
Thank you. Councillor Barkwell?
I think that's enough time in the year for me anyway. I'm sure the pickleball players will all be out there until they go to Arizona. So I'll be voting against this motion as it is because it doesn't include the pickleball.
Councillor Holmes?
I think for this year, we shouldn't necessarily be encouraging organized play. The pickleball club, as they normally play, it's a large group for them together, and it's a very social thing, which is great. But this is an exceptional year, and I don't think that we need to be encouraging social distancing, physical distancing, even on these courts, and building a facility that the purpose is to allow them to all be there physically together. It might not be, it makes sense to delay it for a year in that respect. And also, I think there's the argument that could be made that all three of these projects, to be fair, should move along at the same time. And if they're all being constructed next year, then that's fair to everybody. I think there's a risk. We don't know what the post-pandemic situation is going to be like. And so that you'll end up having pickleball courts built, but there'll be no tennis court and no dog park built, because who knows, a year from now, we might not be able to afford to do anything.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. I'll go to you in just a second, Councillor Patton. I just wanted to say that, you know, we're taught the phrase post-pandemic has come up a couple of times this afternoon already. I think that we all need to be cognizant that even if the work was completed by August of this year, within a couple of months, well, it's the word inevitable is being thrown out there. We will be in round 2 at some point this fall of COVID. So I think deferring this until next year makes the most sense for the reasons that Councillor Holmes said, but for other reasons as well, given by staff. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To our Director of Recreation, Lori, did you say that you had already got pricing for the pickleball courts, and you were talking in regards to some fencing was what was outstanding?
Yes, so early this year we started with the RFP process, and we completed the process for the resurfacing piece of it. And at that point, we did not award. We just put it on hold to say all capital projects are on hold. But we do have a quote that we could use if we wanted to move forward. I think he gave us an extension of 6 months to honor that. But we'd still have to go out to get fencing quotes and confirm that work before we proceeded.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor? Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, like the word post-COVID has been thrown around quite a bit. You know, I know Dr. Bonnie Henry last week said there hasn't been a pandemic yet that hasn't had a second wave. So, you know, it could be very important for us. I know it's not a lot of money, but we should be very cognizant of what we're spending today, because we may need it come spring next summer. Who knows how long this is going to go for? And there's other municipalities out there right now that are going, you know, basically into bankruptcy. And if we have an opportunity to watch what we're doing financially, I think it's prudent of us to do so. So I would support the motion that's on the table.
Thank you. It's a bit of a catch-22 because we'd like to encourage people to get outside and for their mental health and their physical health, but at the same time, you know, we have to be cognizant of our purse strings and protecting the community in that fashion. Okay, Councillor Carlson, do you have your hand up?
Sort of. Just that I find myself thinking about what Councillor Holmes said when it comes to encouraging social distancing. And as we know, those who play the most pickleball are those who are also probably in one of the most vulnerable groups. So I do think encouraging people to be in smaller spaces. If we can't kick a soccer ball around, I don't know if we should really be smacking pickleballs back and forth. Could be some challenges there. And my other thing is, someone mentioned before everyone goes to Arizona. But I would be hazard a guess that everyone won't be going to Arizona in 2020. And so if we can encourage other forms of playing outside throughout the winter, we should be doing that as well. And I think that 2021, getting some, if we're going to resurface those courts, getting that done before the season begins in 2021 is going to be a better idea. And I think the world will have a better grip on what kind of danger might actually exist playing sports like pickleball and tennis, and as the research becomes more and more clear, and as the COVID becomes more and more understood. So I will support this motion.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'll call the question. Oh, before I do that, Ms. Needham, could you read the motion that's on the floor again for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The motion on the floor is that $10,000 to complete the research for the location of a dog park be added to the general fund for 2020.
Okay. Councillor Van Elfen?
Will that include the geotech for the tennis courts in the 10,000? No? Or is that already in operational? Thank you.
Dave, did you want to respond to that, or either you or Lori?
The 5,000 is already in the budget, Madam Mayor, so this is an additional 10.
Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Any opposed? So that carries unanimously. Thank you, Council. Oh, it does not. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I switched the screen so I could see Aaron's hand, and I missed yours. Councillor Barkwell is opposed. Thank you, Councillor Holmes. On to the solar and battery project. Questions on this? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. So we pushed the date to make a decision in July because that was the kind of the limit of being able to get the project completed, not jeopardizing our grant funding. Is my question through to the Director of Finance is with what's being proposed now within the budget, would that is that okay with our grant funding? Does that not put any jeopardy into that grant funding?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The agreement we have with UBCM through the federal government is that the completion date for this project is September 30th, 2023. So barring, depending on how quickly the process goes and how quickly it is for RFPs to go out and sourcing all of the equipment. At this point in time, I don't think the timeline is in jeopardy. We do have the ability to put a request into the UBCM, who would then forward it on to the federal government for an extension. If when this project gets moving, we need to, or it looks like we're going to need some more time. But without having definitive timelines in place, September 30th, 2023 is currently our deadline.
Councillor Patton, followed by Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With what our Director of Finance was just talking about in regards to having staff approach UBCM for an extension, do we need to do a motion on that? Perhaps what we could look at is maybe instead of September 30th of 2023, we actually move it to the end of December 2024, which give us 15 extra months. And I really can't see the federal government saying no, especially when we're in the financial crisis that we're in with this pandemic. And it would give us the opportunity then to really work with our community and to move, the solar farm forward in some respects. Thank you.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Basically the same comment. I think at this point in time, I think we should be contacting UBCM and asking for an extension because of the COVID pandemic to extend this project out further. And also in the literature today, this project is being brought back to the council table in July for further discussion. Can we bring it to July for the more wholesome discussion? But in the meantime, writing a letter and seeing if we could start those conversations today about the extension. I'd rather ask now than, in 2023. Right now, we're in the midst of the pandemic, and I think now would be a good time to ask for an extension. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I guess my only point would be that what have we got to lose by writing a letter and asking at this point?
Anthony, could you care to
Yeah,
comment?
I can't see any problem with that. I think if we had a resolution from council directing staff to request an extension, if it was until the end of 2024, I believe Councillor Patton mentioned, December 2024, then we'd certainly be able to move that, I guess, send that letter on to UBCM.
I just have a question about the reasons that we will be giving in the letter. Purely financial considerations? Yeah. At least I got a nod from Councillor Van Elfen. That's what you were thinking. Councillor Barkwell?
I'd say it's more than that. I'd say we have all the cash flow issues that the Director of Finance brought up today. We also have staffing difficulties because of layoffs and additional workload for the remaining staff. And also we haven't been able to have the public engagement that we said that we were going to have and were, I presume, intending to have. So there's three things, and the pandemic has impacted all three of those.
Right. But my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong in understanding this, Mr. Haddad, is that we are still going ahead with the July date? Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Maybe staff could look into the timelines and the needs for asking for an extension and pros and cons, and bring that back to us in July when we have our more fulsome discussion. I'd like to know staff's take on this.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at as well. And let's see, we're at the end of May now, so 6 weeks probably won't make a difference either way. Other thoughts? All right. I guess we need a motion to that effect, do we? Or is it just a direction to staff? Karen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think a direction to staff, if it is for a letter to UBCM, that would be clear and provide some clarity.
Sorry, that would be great, but I'm wondering if we would need a resolution to have, I'll get to you in just a second, Carlson, to have a direction to staff to come back with reasons, pros and cons in writing the letter, as Councillor Holmes has suggested. That's the same kind of thing, I guess, just simply a direction to
Some
staff
clarity.
to report back.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Same
sorry,
same
Madam-
deal, Karen?
Sorry,
Sorry.
Madam Mayor. Yeah, same deal. I think it just provides clarity around what's being asked. So
Okay. Councillor Carlson.
No, that was my concern, is that we don't send it until we know what we're asking, and council can approve that. But I do think that putting the proposal that staff has brought forward to put the bulk of this into 2021 based on the timeline that Dave has just given us and the work that needs to be done, it makes sense. We want to make sure that we put the big numbers where they belong and where we're actually spending that money. So if we're not going to be able to procure and do all that work in 2020, then we should be putting it in 2021, as long as we continue to move forward and have this big conversation that we're going to be having in July.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. You've reminded me of a question that I had written down. In 2020, we have an amendment to just down to 200,000 in the budget. Is that, can you tell us what that is for, Dave?
I believe it's for some consulting work, but Tammy, could you potentially answer that for me?
Sure. Good afternoon, Council. Hi. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Tammy.
Yeah, my hair is a little out of control. Excuse me. So the budget amendment that's being proposed is to cover expenses that we've already incurred to date for some of the consulting work and the reports that were brought back to Council in April. And then we wanted to leave a little bit of wiggle room in case in July Council said, yes, proceed with additional work or do any kind of additional reports, so that we still had some budget left in order to carry forward with that mandate in 2020.
Okay, that totally clarifies it. Thank you for that, Tammy. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Barkle.
Well, it seems to me we compromised on how long we would defer the discussion on the environmental report, that assessment we received, because we were concerned about deadlines and not wanting to delay things that might jeopardize the project. And so then if we don't send off a letter sooner rather than later asking, we're still going to be sitting in that same situation in July wondering, well, how crucial is this deadline? I don't think we need to wait 6 weeks while staff decides whether we should even send a letter requesting. I think you're you're making a mountain out of a molehill out of a simple request to ask the question, you know, is it possible it can be extended? And you put down your reasons. I mean, as I said earlier, what's the deadline? What's the risk here? And I don't want to see us in this situation down the road where we're still kind of wondering, well, are we faced with this imminent deadline or not? So perhaps maybe we could get back, we could make a decision at our next council meeting 2 weeks if there has to be some kind of staff research into the question of whether we should send a letter asking for an extension or not.
Councillor Barkle, if I could just respond to your comments. I don't think that what we're discussing in terms of directing staff is whether or not to send a letter. I think we've all agreed that a letter requesting an extension is a good idea. I think that what we are looking at for the direction is we'd like to know what are the pros and cons, and as part of that letter, we would like to know, at least I would like to know, and I think that Councillor Holmes spoke to this quite ably, is what it is that, what are the reasons we would be asking for this extension, and let's get some ideas on the table in terms of what are the pros and what are the cons in requesting this extension. It's really just a little bit more information. And as far as it coming back for a decision at our next council meeting in 2 weeks, I guess that's up to staff to indicate whether or not that research or that work could be done in this two-week time frame. So, Anthony?
Yeah, no, I think the posing the question to UBCM this week, for example, around I guess it should be hopefully a simple conversation with them around some of the delays and concerns related to COVID that have pushed this project out. So I wouldn't be too concerned around, I guess, too many details around the pros and cons and those sort of things. I think it just should be a relatively quick phone call to find out if there are any significant concerns. As you can imagine, I'm sure there's lots of other federal grants that are probably being asked the same question right now with all the delays that are going on. So as long as we've got council's support to ask for that extension, then I think that's a good thing for now. And if we get the response back before the July meeting, then we'll make sure that council are aware of what that response is, if that makes sense.
Councillor Carlson.
So, sorry, you're suggesting that it wouldn't necessarily be a formal letter. It'd simply be a conversation to find out if that's an option or not.
Yes, for sure. Okay. I think if that's something council want us to ask, which sounds as though it is, then we can certainly pose that question. And if there's concerns, we'll be able to bring those concerns back to council. If not on the 4th or on in the meeting in July beforehand.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I thank you. I think that's the best approach at keeping informal. To get a feeling from UBCM, what's the lay of the land out there. I don't, because as was mentioned, we're probably not the only municipality in this situation. And if UBCM comes back and says, yeah, totally understandable, this, who could have imagined this, no problems with the extension, or if they come back and saying, well, no, forget it, if you don't even think about it, you're going to lose that money, then that's a completely different conversation than but if we could get that kind of informal discussion with UBCM to hear where they're coming from, rather than writing a formal letter without having that conversation. So that's I'd appreciate it if the CAO could take that initiative, and we'd have a better idea of what to do. Thanks.
Okay, so Councillor Holmes has stated his thoughts. Other councillors, how do you feel about not directing staff at some point or other to write a letter, but simply to have that casual conversation, not casual, informal conversation? Nods? Oops, Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I like the approach our CAO wants to go into, and I believe that if there was more in-depth requests from UBCM to put forward to the federal government, then it can come back to us in that regard. But I think this will give us an idea anyway of what the flavor is anyway of having us move it forward, so that we're not into being, maybe it's the wrong term of word, but pressured into moving it faster than it really needs to move forward in that direction. So yeah, no, I think that's a great move. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Councillor Patton. Councillor Van Elfen, did you want to say something?
No, just agree, Madam Mayor, that's all.
Okay. Good, thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, will the CAO be making this call himself?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so we're all good with that direction then? Good. So we've been through all three.
Madam Mayor,
Yes?
Sorry, just to butt in, Dave, do you need a resolution on the extension to the solar project, or are you good with what's in front of you?
In regards to the
Just I guess
conversation,
the adjusted timeline for pushing the capital budget out for the solar project. Do you need any further direction than what you've got? I just want to
yes. So what Councillor Carlson had mentioned was based on the timing. So that proposed timing that I had put up in the PowerPoint presentation, adjusting the budget to 200,000 in 2020, 4.29 million in 2021, and 2.49 million in 22. Again, that was based on timelines, and that, if council was in agreement, would need to be a resolution of council. Because the budget right now, as it stands, is 4 million in 2020 and the 2.9 in 2021.
Okay, thank you. So we have two, oh, Councillor Barkwell?
I was just going to move the motion as presented to us in the agenda for the solar project deferral of the capital expense. Maybe I'll make that motion. Somebody can second it and we can have discussion.
Could you first, could I ask you first, Councillor Barkwell, to make the first motion that is in our staff report about receiving this for information, and then we can get on to the second one?
Oh, okay. I don't have that up on my screen right now.
That the report from the Director of Finance. Maybe Councillor Holmes, do you have that up on the screen?
Yeah, and for the second part, that would include it. The solar thing would be included, eh? So I'll do the first one. That the report from the Director of Finance proposed 2020-2024 District of Summerland Capital Plan amendments dated May 20th, 2020 be received for information.
Thank you. Councillor Carlson is seconding it. Peace out, Councillor Carlson. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries unanimously. And now on to your second resolution, Councillor Barkwell.
Yes, I don't have the numbers, but where are they specifically? Should I read them out somehow? Or the deferral of, yeah, if it could, there we go. I'd like to move that the solar and battery storage capital expenditures be amended per the report from the Director of Finance, so that 2020 is 200,000, 2021 is 4.29 million, and 2022 is 2.49 million.
Okay.
Just a point of clarification. I think it's 4.29 and 4.49. I think he said them the same.
4 and 2.
Did I mishear? Okay, thank you.
Councillor Holmes, are you seconding?
Well, I can, but also clarification, if I may.
Okay.
Isn't this part of the proposed budget amendments? That
yes.
So why are we separating this out? Why don't we just, because there's all the other amendments that need to be passed too. So why don't we just pass number 2 of the staff recommendations, and this is included in that, correct?
Dave.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the 3 individual items that we brought forward, this one, we did not make any amendments to the original financial plan because we were unsure as to what council wanted to do. So the amendments that you have in front of you do not take this into account. So we do need this brought forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then I'll second it.
Oh, you've already done that. I've got you on record for doing that. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have one question, though, in regards to Tammy's statement that there's some wiggle room in that 200,000. So my question being is we just said no to the dog or to the pickleball guys for about $48,000, I believe. But now we're going to leave wiggle room in for the solar project. Is there no way that we could get that number a little bit more current or accurate than what it has to be, so that I just feel a bit uncomfortable saying we're leaving wiggle room in there when we're looking at other monetary things that we're cutting back and we're looking at, but we're not taking the same approach in regards to the $200,000. Thank you.
If that phrase was contingency instead of wiggle room, would that make you more comfortable, Councillor Patton?
Depending on the amount of the contingency, Madam Worship.
Dave.
I'll try to speak to that, Madam Mayor. When we were looking at when we were looking at the dog park, we were specifically looking at, the pickleball. We were specifically looking at the project itself, not the dollar value associated with it. So when we're looking at this one, because the overall costs are unknown at this point, we're estimating that we would need approximately $200,000. If we don't spend the 200, that of course will get rolled over into future years. So we're looking at like a budget amount as opposed to looking at a project. They're two kind of different things, both on the same capital plan. But if the 200 is not spent, as noted, those funds would get transferred into future years. Whereas when we're looking specifically at a dog park or a pickleball court, that's project specific. So if council wants to move forward, or if they don't want to move forward, those are the two different types of decisions.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, good question, Councillor Patton. Any further discussion on this motion? I just have one question, Dave. In addition to the items that Councillor Barkwell specifically laid out for the solar and battery project, do we also have to include the wording for supporting the proposed budget amendments? Because there's other amendments as well, right?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we would need a resolution. So outside of the solar one, a resolution to basically say that the amendments as provided in the staff report be approved.
Okay, so 3 separate resolutions then. Okay. So let's vote, unless there is more discussion, let's vote on the solar and battery project. So moving those dollar amounts over 2020, 2021, and 2022. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? And any opposed? Okay, thank you. That carries unanimously. And then the third resolution, which shows as number 2 in our staff report, could I have someone bring that forward, please? It'll be changed a little bit. Councillor Holmes.
Not sure how to change it, but council support the proposed budget amendments and direct staff to prepare an amendment to the 2020 financial plan.
Perfect.
That work?
Yep. Seconder? Councillor Traynor? Any further discussion on this one? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so that one carries as well. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Dave and Lori and Anthony.
Thank
that
you.
Wasn't as painful as I thought it might be, so that's great. Then it's back to Karen for her little recorded message.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the public media comment period, again, we are holding an electronic meeting and it's being held without public attendance as permitted by the Ministerial Order M139. This meeting is being live streamed, however, and it will be recorded and posted to the District of Summerland website.
Thank you. Could I have someone bring forward 7.1, a resolution to close the meeting to the public, please? Councillor Holmes, seconded by Councillor Van Alphen, all in favor? Great, so that carries. And we'll give a little bit of time here.